Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be a one brand tutorial. For the most part, there are a few things I didn't pick up. I don't have like a full face of products to use. But today's video is going to be all about the new brand at Ulta called Model's Own. I haven't really seen anyone talk about these products, and I also haven't seen a one brand tutorial using them. I do want to say before I forget that Model's Own is having a sale right now on Ulta for buy one get one half off. So it might not be going on by the time this video comes up, but I do want to point out that they do have sales like that. So if you want to pick up any of these products or anything from the brand, make sure you wait until there's a sale like that so you can get a better deal. So yeah, they have a ton of products they offer. They're very, very up to trend. And as far as pricing goes, it seems to be pretty on par and pretty normal with other drugstore brands nowadays. Like I would say it's up there with like NYX or L'Oreal. So yeah, like I said, I don't have a product to show for every aspect of my face. For what I don't have, I'll just make it up with a product that maybe you guys haven't seen before. I want to pick up so much more from this brand. I just figured I'd do a little bit here and there. So I'm just going to use my trusty Wet n Wild Photo Focus eyeshadow primer. Also, I should point out that this will be a wear test video. So I have a couple of eyeshadow palettes to work with today. So I have the Supernatural palette and the Barely There palette. Look at the packaging. It's beautiful. Like their packaging is so killer. Both of these palettes were $13.49, so I think it's pretty affordable because you do get 10 shades. It's a really good size palette. You get a really, really nice mirror. You get a double-ended brush. Here is what the Supernatural palette looks like. So this one is a little bit more kind of grungy, a little bit more cool toned, I guess you could say. So you do get a few matte shades. There's this one, try not to blind you, this one, and then everything else is shimmery or metallic-y looking. And then here is the Barely There palette. So this one is a lot more like neutral, everyday, very natural. And you do have a few matte shades in this one as well. You have these two on the side, you have this one, this one, this one, and then everything else is shimmer. And the brush in both palettes are the same. On one side you get more of like a flat kind of blending brush. It doesn't look that good. And then the other side you get more of a flat, like packing all over the eyelid kind of brush. Starting off with the Barely There palette, I'm going to take this shade right over here that looks like a peachy creamsicle color and just pack this all over the eyelid. So yeah, I'm just setting the eyeshadow primer down so everything applies better and more smoothly. Okay, so there's that shade. It did seem to work pretty nicely to set everything like a nice skin tone colored eyeshadow. I'm going to swatch every shade that I use for you guys just to show you. So there's that. It's like a peachy ivory, I would say. It doesn't swatch all that well. You can't even see it on my hand, but yeah. Moving on. So now I'm gonna go into the Supernatural palette. I'm gonna take this shade right over here that looks like it would be a decent transition shade. Here's what that looks like. Not very pigmented. I'm just gonna go ahead and put this all in the crease as my transition shade. So this shade seems to be going on pretty nicely. Not really having any issues as far as blending goes. I definitely feel like these are shades, especially the matte ones, that you have to build up. So I'm going to go into the Barely There palette again, and I'm going to take this shade right up here, which is another matte shade. This is like a purpley muted lavender. So here's that shade. It is called Secret. I just now realized that these actually have names. This one seems to be a little bit more pigmented. Doesn't really swatch the best, but I feel like this would be one that's going to be good to build up. So this one does seem to be a lot more pigmented right off the bat. Doesn't seem like I'm having to work with it as much. I feel like these shadows are kind of hit and miss. I don't feel like they're the best eyeshadows as far as quality goes, but I definitely feel like for the drugstore, it's a step up from what we have. It's gonna seem like I'm using a crap ton of shadows, and I am, just because I'm trying to show you guys as many shadows in action as possible. So I'm gonna go back into the Barely There palette and take the shade Buff. This is another matte shade. It's just a matte tan brown shade, and we're gonna put that in the outer V and start working on building up that depth. And I'm gonna go in with the brush that comes with it. I'm gonna use the more like fluffy blending side. Not really liking this brush. It's a little small. I think this would be a good brush for the lower lash line. So we're gonna save it for that. So I'm not really seeing this shade a whole lot. Let's swatchy swatch for you. Not the most pigmented. It's kind of more like a cool toned matte tan shade. It's not really, doesn't really show up. Okay, so I definitely feel like when you scratch off the top layer, it starts being more pigmented just a little bit. Doesn't swatch the best still, but we're getting somewhere. So now I'm gonna go into the Supernatural palette again. I'm gonna take Mythical right here, which is another matte, kind of purpley gray shade. This is another pretty cool tone palette. I feel like the Barely There palette is a lot more pink based. So there's Mythical, a little bit more pigmented. None of them swatch that great. So this one's definitely showing up. The shadows do look very smooth and very soft on the eyes. I'm gonna go into the Supernatural palette and let's take, I think I'm gonna take this shade right here, which is like a shimmery maroon shade. So here's what that shade looks like after I've dug my finger into it pretty deep. These are kind of a weird formula. Some of these don't really feel like powders. They feel more like creamy powders. So it seems like all the shimmery shades I've used in both palettes aren't that great on their own, but it does seem like they work better when the brush is wet. I'm gonna try to do it without wetting my brush, but it seems like I'm having to dip into it a whole lot and build it up quite a bit. And this brush is just way too tiny. So the shimmery shades are definitely more metallic when you can get them there, but it does seem like they're more like a foiled type eyeshadow. Let's go into Mystery and the Supernatural palette. This is another kind of foiled shimmery shade. There's what that looks like. Definitely a lot more pigmented than the other shadows I've picked up. Let's put it in the outer V. Oh wow, that picked up a lot of product. Just one little dip. I don't know how this is gonna look. I actually might put the green on the lower lash line just to spice it up a little bit. So now I'm gonna go into this shade right here, which is called Curse. The shimmery shades feel very, very soft. Wow, that one's actually pretty impressive. That one is probably the best shadow that I've swatched in both palettes. So again, I'm just gonna start putting everything in the outer V just because that's the only place I have to put it. So I'm gonna go into the Barely There palette now. I'm gonna go in with this shade right here, which is like a really light pink shade. This is called Birthday Suit. And once I scratched off the surface, I'm left with more of a metallic-y look. And I'm just gonna pop this in the center just to add some dimension. For my inner corner highlight, I'm gonna go into the Barely There palette. I'm gonna take this shade right here, which is called Naked, which is just your typical like champagne shade. So yeah, I did scratch off the surface and here's what it looks like now. It's a very, very pretty shade. I feel like the shimmery shades probably do work better with your finger. So now for the brow bone, I'm gonna go into Nude again in the Barely There palette. And I might mix it in with this one right above it, which is called Au Naturel, which looks more like a pink shade, but when you mix these two together, this does work out to be a brow bone highlight for me. It's more like a skin tone color. So there is Au Naturel. It's like just a really, really light pink. So moving on to eyeliner, I don't have anything from Model's Own, but I did pick up this LA Girl eyeliner from Ulta. So this is the LA Girl Glide Gel Liner in the shade Very Black, and I actually really, really do like this eyeliner. This is a very, very jet black formula. It glides on and it stays on all day long, and not to mention this is incredible for the waterline. It doesn't dry my eyes out, it doesn't irritate my eyes or anything. So I'm gonna go ahead and line my waterline, my bottom waterline with the liner, because I do want to show you guys how it wears. It doesn't tug or anything. But I picked up another LA Girl product. This is the Shady Slim Brow Pencil. For some reason I just want to say Slim Shady. Why isn't it called Slim Shady? And this is in the shade Taupe. And it's just your typical like Anastasia Brow Wiz type product. This is not a taupe shade. That's really warm. Well, the real Slim Shady, please stand up. Please stand up. Please stand up. I feel like if you could find a color in this that actually matched, this would probably be a pretty decent product because I do like the formula itself. I mean, it's not like completely undoable. It's just not the kind of shade that I like to go for. Okay, this is taking up way too much time on my camera, so I'm gonna go off camera and finish up my brows and put some mascara on, and then I'll come back and show you guys what I have for my face. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish up my lower lash line, and then we'll move on to the face. So I'm gonna go back into the Supernatural palette, and like I said earlier, I think I'm gonna take this really, really pretty green shade, like a really pretty jungle green. This is called Celestial. Pretty pigmented. This is a very, very pretty green shade. So I'm gonna put this right at the lash line and just wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. So the green doesn't show up a whole lot. It kind of resembles like a greenish black. So I do have a new foundation. This is the Runway Matte Foundation. Here's what it looks like. So this is $11.99 on the Ulta website, but for some reason I got mine for $8.99. You get 1 fluid ounce. I got the shade Buff. This is a pretty thick, moussey consistency, as you can see. This will definitely work for my skin tone. It's not as bad as I thought, so that's good. I don't hate this foundation, but I don't love it either. It's not one of those foundations that wowed me right off the bat. I do feel like this is definitely a medium coverage starting off. So it does layer nicely. I don't feel like it dries too fast or anything either. I feel like it does give you some time to work with it. And it does give my skin a really nice, like, airbrushed, flawless appearance. I really do like the consistency. I forgot to show you guys. Let's blend it out on my hand here. So as you can see, it's a really nice, like, creamy formula. I'm gonna use a different brush to apply On this side, this is the Morphe Y6. I've seen a couple of people talk about this for foundation. Okay, so the brush is blending it out pretty nicely. I just like the way a sponge applies makeup better. I mean, I have oily skin. I always forget to mention, my God. I have like normal oily combination skin. It's not super oily. My skin is pretty normalized. I feel like the brush kind of soaked up a little bit more than the sponge did, which is kind of weird. I think I'm gonna go in for the very last layer on this side with a sponge just to make it even, just because I like it a little bit better. So I really do like the finish and the coverage of this. I think it's a really nice like high medium coverage. I think this is a very, very pretty foundation so far. It is now 3 o'clock and we're gonna use that for our check-in time, but it does seem to be setting fairly nicely. I really do like the way it feels. It doesn't feel heavy on my skin or anything right now. So I'm gonna try a new powder from the drugstore. This is the Maybelline Fit Me Loose Finishing Powder, but I have the shade 20 Light Medium. This was sent to me by Influencer. Just at a first glance, it does look pretty dark, but when I put it on my face, it does seem to be more translucent, or just kind of like it meshes in with my skin pretty well. And as you can see, it doesn't really add a whole lot of color like you would think it would. So yeah, you guys came for a one brand tutorial. You guys are getting a lot more than just one brand. Okay, so moving on to the last and the most exciting product in my opinion. This is the Sculpt Glow Palette. This is in the shade Light to Medium 02. So I got this for $12.74, but it's showing that it's $16.99 right now. I don't really know if I bought this stuff on a day when there was like an overall sale on everything. Maybe there was like 20% off sale or something, I don't know. These are huge pans, but you get a blush, a highlight, and a bronzer. The bronzer is matte, and then the blush and highlight are both shimmery. I don't think that the highlighter really goes in with the colors of this palette. This is a pretty warm palette. They're very like golden undertoned, especially the blush, and this highlight's very like pinky and kind of cool undertoned. I don't really gravitate towards the highlighter, but the blush and the bronzer are absolutely amazing. This is the prettiest blush I've found from the drugstore, and it kind of has that like NARS orgasm type feel. It gives your cheeks a beautiful rosy corally tone, but also that really pretty golden sheen. So first I'm gonna go in with the bronzer, and as you can see, it's a very, very warm kind of red undertone bronzer. So if you don't like that kind of tone, then you wouldn't like this palette, and I probably wouldn't think it's worth it for you. Now I'm gonna go in with the blush. I'm gonna take that on my Morphe Y2 brush. This has become my favorite blush brush. It looks like I have highlighter on my cheekbones. That is so pretty. So I'm gonna go ahead and put on the highlighter from the palette just to show you guys what I'm talking about. Like, it does give you a pretty glow. I do like the formulation. It just looks like I have white and then gold right here. It doesn't mix. But that is all the products I have from Model's Own. I don't have any lip products. Yeah, I am very, very impressed with how everything looks right now. I will give you guys my final thoughts on everything I used today at the end of the video, and I will see you at the end of the night. Hey guys, so I'm back for my final check-in of the night. It is now 11:07. Here's what everything looks like. I do have some fading around my bronzer region, and my blemishes are starting to kind of peek through, but my nose and my cheek area and kind of my chin, mostly my cheek area though, does not look very good at all. It looks very cakey, and it's settled into my pores. There's a lot of creasing, and it's pretty much all faded off under my eye area. Product has kind of unevenly and very patchily, if that's even a word, rubbed off on my nose quite a bit. I can still see my blush and highlight pretty well, but my bronzer area, which is the first place that foundation starts fading, like, it is pretty much completely gone as far as like the bronzer. Actually, it does look a little bit cakey up here close to my hairline. This is usually where all the sweat goes when I work out, so I definitely think sweat was a really big factor in that problem. But I will say, I do think the cakey problem in the T-zone, like cheek, nose area, is definitely caused by oil. So if you have oily skin, this is probably not gonna be a foundation that works for you. Yeah, I really like the way this foundation looked at first and for the first few hours, pretty much up until I went to the gym. I don't think it's a bad foundation. It's definitely not the worst foundation I've tried. And I would like to wear this on a day when I don't go to the gym to see if, you know, the sweat was the only cause of it melting down like that. So I will keep you guys updated on the foundation in the description box below. But just going off of how it looks right now, I'm not a big fan anymore. The Sculpt Glow palette is definitely the winner out of all this bunch in my opinion. I mean, if nothing else, this is an amazing palette for the blush. I do love the bronzer as well. The highlighter's pretty if you like cool toned, like pinky highlighters. So as far as the eyeshadow palettes go, I definitely think these are worth checking out if you are in the market for a drugstore eyeshadow palette. I do like the variety that they give you, and this Supernatural palette's probably my favorite. So I wouldn't say that these are palettes that you have to have in your collection. You have to go out and get it right now. there are better eyeshadow formulas and there are better quality eyeshadows out there. I just now realized I didn't really take a good look at the eyeshadows up close to see if there was any creasing or fading. Now that I'm looking up close, there is fading. There is a little bit of creasing. That green that I put under my lash line did kind of smear off. You can barely see there's any green there. So I don't feel like these are the most long wearing eyeshadows. Because of that reason, I probably won't be wearing these very much at all. But these are another product that I would definitely say try at your own risk. I hope you guys enjoyed this one brand tutorial. Kinda. If you guys want to see more videos like this, then please let me know in the comments section and let me know what brands you want to see. So thank you guys so much for watching and hanging out with me today. Thumbs up if you like this video, subscribe, follow me on all my social media. All the links are below, as well as all the products I talked about today, and I hope you guys have a beautiful day. Mwah.